you ready to discover who you came here to be? Welcome to the Human Design and Astro Club podcast. Human Design is a system and a tool that is here to empower you and show you your greatest potential. Come learn with us and discover who you really are. Hi friends, Krystle here. Now, before we dive into this episode that I know will be providing you a lot of value and support, we wanted to share with you how we can support you off the podcast because we have a few new opportunities cooking in my kitchen and also that Leah has selected in her market. So the first offer is what we've had for a little while, which is a free guide on tips and tricks to honoring your strategy and authority. Now, if you've had a hard time understanding what your strategy is, if you've had a hard time understanding how to honor your authority and use it in your everyday life, you're going to want to head to the show notes down below and pick up this free guide. Now, our next offer is our language manual, and this is called Your User Manual to Your True Self because it reveals with you how to understand the language in human design, how to understand the key terms and the dense information in human design. We have a lot of images that give descriptions and allow you to follow your chart and learn how to use this language in your everyday life. And you can pick that up in the show notes down below. Now, our next offer is our mini classes on the 4 transformations, which are the variables in human design that help lead you on the path to purpose and help you better understand your process and how to get to where you are going in life. Now we have bundles with this and also a la carte classes on determination, cognition, and environment, and you can pick those up in the show notes down below. And we will be starting a variable intensive. We are super excited about this, so excited, which will be a 5-week program on every single variable. And we are going to be doing a hands-on approach with this, where we'll be guiding you through the classes in depth, week by week, and you will get access to every single guidebook and workbook for life. Yes, you heard that right. Please look out for our wait list soon, as this will be starting in October and there will be limited spots to this intensive. Now, we also have another class, brand new. This is brand new. You've heard it here first, that there will be a 3-part series on 2027. Yep, I know everyone's interested in this class. 3 live Zoom classes recorded, and it's going to be on the 2027 mutation that we are all entering into. And the first class will be on August 22nd for a limited time only for the live classes. Please feel free to head to the show notes for more detail and to register for the class. Now, we also have our 2022 energy forecast. Now, we started at the beginning of the year. We went through all the major players that are happening in 22, and we talk about them through the lens of human design, astrology, and tarot, and you can pick that up in the show notes down below. Now, speaking of energy forecasts, we have a really big opportunity for you guys, especially you listeners that have been listening to us week after week with the program and the transit updates that we've been going through. So we've created a monthly bonus exclusive. Okay, this is called the program exclusive, which is going to be bonus material on the transits and more. And you'll also be getting a worksheet with this each month, where we're going to talk about the gates and channels in detail for each month, as well as a few other things that we'll let you guys know about soon. So definitely pay attention. It'll be coming out in September. Make sure you are subscribed to our email so you can join that immediately. Now, we also have Nurture Your Child Through Their Design. This is a class that we did, a free class that we recorded, that we have decided that we're going to make a whole guidebook for. and you'll be able to pick up the recording as well as the guidebook. And we're going to be going through all the types through the lens of a child. And then we're also going to be giving you nervous system regulation through the variables. We've come up with a few ways that we've been working with our children with this, and we wanted to share it with you. So please pay attention to this coming out late August. Now, if you've been wanting to work with Leah and I one-on-one, if you enjoy how we explain human design, astrology, and tarot, I do the human design portion and Leah does the tarot portion, and we both do one-on-one readings. So if you would like to get a reading, you can head to our website in the show notes down below and book a reading with us. Now, I'm going to stop talking about all this stuff, and I'm just going to let you guys get into it. Feel free to reach out to us. We love hearing from you, and go ahead and listen to this next brand new episode. See you over there, friends. Welcome to the Human Design and Astro Club podcast. I'm Krystle, and Leah is not here. I have a new co-host. No, I'm just kidding. I have a special guest for today. This is an interview episode. Leah could not make it to this one, so of course my desire motivation had to take the reins. So if you are new to the Human Design and Astro Club podcast, welcome. We're so happy to have you. This is a podcast for a bunch of weirdos. If we're going to be just like straight up about it, bunch of weirdos. We talk about weird stuff. Like today's episode is going to be a little interesting. We mostly do transit weekly updates that you can find in past and forward episodes where we discuss the transits through human design, astrology, and tarot. There's also education a lot here on human design. We're big human design folks over here. We'll be probably diving into a little bit of that tonight and some variety. So let me just stop open throating for a moment, and I'm just going to go ahead and introduce our special guest, Nina. Welcome, Nina.
Hi.
How you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm good.
Good. I'm happy you're here. So Nina is a variety of geniuses. is what I guess I should say. She's a sculptor. She's an artist. She also, has these intuitive gifts, and she does Reiki. I mean, you name it, there's a chance she might be doing it. So every time I talk to her, I learn something new. So today's episode, we're going to be talking about mushrooms specifically in a variety of fashion. But before we get into that, I would love for you to tell our audience a little bit about you. If you can remember your human design type, strategy, authority, and profile. If not, I'll let you know. And also, I think your big three. So if, our audience usually likes to know those kind of things. And then introduce yourself with what you would like to tell our audience.
Okay, well, my name is Nina Kawar. I'm here in the Asheville area. I'm a studio artist as well in Marshall, North Carolina. As Krystle had mentioned, which thank you again, Krystle, for having me on the show. I'm really excited to talk to you about mushrooms today because they're definitely in my world. And I would consider myself an artist, a sculptor, and I sculpt a lot of mushrooms. So that's one reason why Krystle had invited me on the show. I anticipate it being more than just about my work, but also I'm also a healer. I do Reiki work, energy work, crystal healing, and a lot of other interests as well. My business, Pure Ritual, I create physical tools, sculptures, and jewelry, creating objects to help others grow closer to their higher self. And it's been a really beautiful journey in connecting with the spiritual community through that body of work. Through my fine art work, which I mentioned, my sculpture work, I do large scale sculptural work, installations, more of intuitive work where I'm listening to the material and creating some work that others often see in galleries or exhibitions, in which I have a solo show up in Hendersonville right now at Continuum Art called Journey Home. Okay, so you asked me about human design profile.
Well, just all the main points, your type, strategy. Well, not your strategy, your type, authority, and profile.
Okay, well, let's see if I know all that. I know I'm a generator.
Yep.
I'm a 6'2", hermit, and role model, right? I don't know if it's the other way around, role model,
It's a
hermit.
Yeah.
And I don't know, what is the other one?
Your sacral authority.
Oh, sacral authority. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've got similarities, but we're also very, very different. We definitely, I feel like the first time we met at a local show in Asheville, I was like, I could tell you were a generator. Just because generators have this really open and inviting aura, people tend to feel a sense of it's almost I feel like for the non-sacrals, we're this ball of fire to them, but it's when flies see a light and they just feel like they have to gravitate towards it. It's kind of our energy.
Can be intense.
For the non-sacrals especially, they sometimes they've told me I'm too much, and that's fine. You guys can tell me I'm too much. I probably am. So you're just telling the truth, but that means that, you know what? I can't help it. But I feel like that's the thing, that human design gives you permission to just fall into yourself instead of trying to be all of it or something completely different. Because I know that I mean, a lot of generators are conditioned to be manifestors because we have all this energy, but we can't initiate. And I feel like when we did your reading, that was one thing that really, you were like, oh shit, I have to try to figure out how to stop initiating. I feel like every generator, when I do a reading for a generator, they're like, how do I stop initiating? So it's been a fun journey going through your design and everything. And you're definitely a genius, but because you have a right brain, you don't realize how much you actually know. And we were talking about that briefly before we got in. You're like, I don't know if I actually know. And I'm like, and so I think you're a genius when it comes to the information of mushrooms in general, and it's they speak to you. So I'd like to hear kind of how you got started with mushrooms, and what you think they're trying. Let's talk about, what do you think they're trying to tell us? Why is it becoming so popular?
That's a great question. Well, first off, to answer your first question on how mushrooms came into my life, I was actually in grad school, so can't believe it. It was about 10 years that I stepped into grad school 10 years ago. And it was within the first semester, I was asked to create work. And I didn't really know where to start, but I was living in Clemson at Clemson University, and I was surrounded by nature. And I love nature. And at that time, I was an avid rock climber, at least previous to school. And so that was my happy place, somewhere in which I felt calm and inspired. And I found myself fascinated and fell down the rabbit hole of mushrooms, simply just by wandering the woods. And next thing you know, I'm sculpting them and researching them more formally at that time, strictly formally, and like cauliflower mushrooms and mushrooms that are more spindle-like, meaning they look like spikes. And so I was formally inspired by them in the way that they grew, and often mimetically, or meaning in clusters. And quickly, I actually evolved, my body of work evolved to plants and flowers, and then eventually um, other work. And it wasn't until I was living in Asheville about maybe 2.5, 3 years ago now, that in my part-time job, someone had mentioned to me fantastic fungi was out in the theater, the Fine Arts Theater in Asheville. And he told me a little bit about it, and I was so ecstatic. I made sure I went to go see it right away, because I already had that seed that was planted of mushrooms. I just hadn't allowed myself to really dive in, given the nature of grad school. And so I went to the film, and I left there feeling like something in me had lit on fire, and I actually connected the dots. At this point, I'm already in my fine art career, or my art career, and I started understanding another level of my work and what I was creating in the embodiment of healing, and how mushrooms are our healers.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had already literally just stepped into my own personal healing journey when it came to consuming mushrooms and psychedelics. So the timing was epic in which this appeared in my life. And I ran with it and started sculpting. And this was literally at the peak of when this film had started coming out. And now here we are. I don't know how long it's been, but maybe about 2.5 or 3 years. It's fascinating to see how popular mushrooms are, but it makes sense because they want to be heard. They are our healers. They're a reminder that we are all one. We're interconnected. The mycelium network in which they run beneath our feet everywhere, and are connected to the trees and the plants, but also are a source of nutrients that we eat from. And even in our body, we have a fungi in us, and so I believe and I trust that they've been speaking to us, and now more people are ready to listen. We're leveling up consciousness. We're waking up and ready to evolve. I'm excited to see where we go from here.
I often wonder, because we're going through a heavy mutation right now. Like I've told you about 2027. I kind of can't shut up about it. We have a class that's coming out on it. So definitely stick around once we drop that class again. But it's interesting because when I watched that movie or that documentary, The Fantastic Fungi, that they were talking about when the cavemen, like basically their skulls and their brains mutated, which who the founder of human design also talks about. And there seems to be a correlation to the mutation happening through potentially the consumption of mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that it's becoming very popular right now when we're actually going through a cycle of mutation.
Mm-hmm.
There seems to be some sort of connection there where, like, so last year, just so everybody knows, it was actually this time last year, I took mushrooms for the first time, like as a trip. And it was like the most like prolific experience I could have had. And I know that like for everybody, it's a different experience. And even every trip is a different journey that you're going to take. Like the last one that I had was like, felt insane. And the first one I had was just like really magical and beautiful. The second one too, but like also it was like where the darkness and the light meet, which is kind of interesting because we're filming this on the equinox. We're talking about universal love and connection, and we have gate 25 transiting the earth right now. So it's just like this conversation had to happen right now because there's this like a collective intuition on oneness
Mhm.
happening right now, and like direction. Like love is a direction. So I feel like that's what the mushrooms are trying to communicate with us, is that we are all love and we are all built from the same source. Like
Absolutely.
nothing is really above anything else. It's just the material world that gives us the illusion that there is. And I feel like they break that illusion for us. Can you talk to us about that? Because I feel like you know the depth of that.
Mm. Well, you said that really well. I absolutely agree in everything that you had just mentioned as far as that transition, but also how we are all one, but it is love and light, and uh,
But not in just like a spiritual bypassy kind of way. Like we
no.
really, it's like if you tear away the like film that's like over our eyes, you would see what's actually happening.
Mhm. Well, and in speaking to the love aspect of it, I mean, we're all created from, not everyone believes this, and I
Mm-hmm.
respect that,
Mm-hmm.
um, but some source, some sort of, we're all energy, really. Let's look at it that way. We are all energy, whether you're a scientist or you're super woo woo. I think most people can agree that we're energy. And that alone is, we have something in common, right? There's an energy that is pulsating through all of us. And um, I truly have come to understand in my own journey that this love, these mirrors that we have in the love that we exude, but also the mirrors that we have in one another, and also nature,
Mm-hmm.
uh, is showing us that we are one and connected. Um, when consuming mushrooms, at least I can only speak from my experience, and everyone's experience is different. Um, uh, but there is a reunion, a reunion with yourself, a coming home of sorts. But also, there is like a stirring and a reveal of the love that's flowing through your own body, but also in connection with others. Not everyone sits down in a space and takes mushrooms with other individuals. So perhaps you don't experience that, where you have the engagement with someone that you can feel the love through your own body in front of someone. But also, there is something deeper. Like, for example, when I go through when I take mushrooms and I step into ceremony, there's an intention that I always set, and not only calling in love, but also connecting with the mushroom. And in that process, there is almost a revealing of how much love I have for not only myself, but others and the beauty around me. So if I'm out in nature, there's a large uh, part of it that is, I'm in awe of the beauty around me. And in my heart, in my eyes, that is the epitome of love, of beauty and gratefulness, the gratitude in which surfaces when on psychedelics is immense.
Yeah. I mean, it's I was listening to another podcast a long time ago, like what you were just talking about, love and beauty. And they said at the core of everything that is love, the core of love is beauty. Like everything is actually beautiful. And I feel like it takes that layer off where you can finally like realize like these bodies are just masks we wear and costumes that we wear, but like under the illusion of separateness is oneness.
Mhm.
And I just wonder, like, are we going to get to this point Like we're now taking them, like it seems like at some they're starting to become more available but than they've ever have been before, as well as like some states have legalized it.
Mhm.
Canada has legalized it. I'm sure other parts of the world that I don't even know it's legal. And it's just really interesting to me to see this transition happening, and also not and like just with medicinal, like going back to the earth, which is really where we're going. The direction after 2027 is leaving this like where we have to be in this like urban setting, and we're going back into nature. And I feel like they're inviting us back into nature to like tell us like we can support you. Like you're not alone in all of this. Do you feel like that might be one of the underlying messages, is that we're not alone in all of this?
Absolutely. There are reminders that we are not all only one and connected, but we come from the same source of beauty. Like we're growing, like a seed, for example. We think of a seed and where it starts from. We once were a seed as well, and we've been growing and blooming and um, healing, and also enduring death in many
Mhm.
ways. We are embodying those polarities in our lives, and nature does too. There's life and destruction, and there comes a point where everything dies. We can't
Mhm.
deny that.
It's true.
And I sense that mushrooms are reminding us of that. They grow quickly, and they die quickly.
Mhm.
Um, and even when ingesting them, whether it is psilocybin or it's medicinal, or if it's, food that, we eat on a daily basis, like in your spaghetti sauce or something, there's a nutritional value to it. So whether it's for your body or for your mind or your spirit, um, it's there. I truly believe that they're reminding us of the beauty within ourselves and the things
Oh,
that we need
yeah.
in order to thrive and be whole in this
So
short time that we have.
that is really beautiful. That was very beautiful. What just poured out of you? Just wanted to, I want to just preface that. Um, Something that just came to me was, how much do you know about what it's actually doing to the structure of our brains? And like, if you don't know, it's okay. But I feel like you know things that I don't realize you know, and I'm just going to ask and we'll see what you know. Um, and also like the neural pathways and structures that are being reformed and broken down and all of that.
Well, I'm not very schooled on the science behind it as much. I'll be honest, I read a lot,
Mhm.
but it doesn't all stick for me. I trust that what sticks is of importance, and it often shows up in my work, maybe more so in a formal sense than I'm sitting in front of you and can actually explain it um, in a way that not only will make sense to the listener, but also maybe very cohesive. But I can speak to the fact that it's definitely been said and proven that it changes the way in which our synapses connect,
Mhm.
and how we understand. Um, and one thing I do want to speak to is that you can take psilocybin, but you can also take psilocybin uh, that with other mushrooms that help support um,
Mm.
the digestion, or I guess where I'm going with that is that there is different ways in which your body absorbs materials. Like if you take a vitamin C pill, only particular percentage of it is actually going to be absorbed, right? There are uh, supposedly, according to Paul Stamets, who is a well-known scientist and mycologist that many follow and also prescribe to his recommendations in taking psilocybin or microdosing, and say that taking lion's mane alongside psilocybin in a small dosage can actually help with the ways in which your mind absorbs.
Lion's mane is already good for the brain on its
Yes.
own, right?
Yeah,
So that
absolutely.
so that would make sense together. It's like it's almost like opening up another layer for.
Yeah, it's a cognitive. But also niacin can help with absorption rate, and allowing that medicine to flow through your body.
Basically, in a nutshell, restructuring your brain in the way you think and act, and probably your creativity. Okay, so I have another question, because you just brought up microdosing, and that's not only is are mushrooms becoming popular, but microdosing in a variety of fashions, including mushrooms, is like becoming popular. That was the next step that I took after I went on a little trip, was like, now I need to still, like, there's more. It's almost like I felt like there was a little more work to do, where I'm not going to be doing multiple trips. I also have kids, but like microdosing, from my experience, and you can tell me you've done it as well, and like, also if you want to talk a little bit more about what it is and like why you think it also might be becoming popular with that as well. But from my experience, it was almost like it allowed me to come back into the body without it being like too overwhelming. Like, if I didn't know that I was taking them, I wouldn't know that I was on them,
Mhm.
is almost the experience of microdosing. Like, people are like, oh, like, you're not going to see anything crazy. It just, like, I feel like my anxiety slows down, because I have a lot of anxiety. So like, I have like no anxiety when I take them, and I just feel like I see um how things really are playing out instead of the illusion.
Yeah.
And it allows me to tap into creativity in a way that I wouldn't be able to. So
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on microdosing?
Yeah. Well, it makes sense that microdosing is becoming more popular for many reasons. One, the mushrooms, whether again it's psilocybin or medicinal, so like lion's mane, reishi, other forms of healing mushroom herbs, teas. Uh, it's they've come to the forefront, and microdosing is the intentions of it is that you take it at a dosage level in which you are not feeling it, but
Mhm.
it is still in your bloodstream and you are still receiving the medicine. If you feel any sort of agitation or irritation, or you are like seeing things, you have too much.
Mm.
You're scale it down. And I recommend, if you're have a scale and you actually say perhaps made that pill yourself, or capsule, take out some and measure it. A dosage is very important,
Oh
and
yeah.
that is different for everyone. When I started out, I'm very sensitive. I don't even take aspirin very often. Once in a blue moon will I put anything that is not natural in my body. And so I respond. My body responds quickly. And so I started out at zero point 0.1 grams, and it was a little bit much for me. And I went down to 0.08. Well, as I continued on my personal journey through microdosing, I found like, okay, I can scale it up a little bit. But the intentions of not only dosage, but how often you're taking them is very important. And so like I mentioned earlier, the Paul Stamets stack, or excuse me, the Stamets stack, as they call it, recommends 4 days on, 3 days off. And that is so that your body doesn't become reliant on it. So your tolerance level, right? So with the 3-day break, it's really important so that you're not only integrating, but taking your break so that you don't have to keep upping the dosage in order to have an effect on your body. But going back to your initial question, as far as why microdosing is perhaps coming more popular, is because you're not experiencing that hallucinogenic experience, which a lot of people are afraid of, which is understandable. Like, I want control of my body. I want control. We all, whether we want to admit it or not, we're trying to have some sort of stability in our lives. And especially if you've got kids, or you've got to go to work, or you've got an important meeting, you don't want to be high, but there is, with microdosing, you're still receiving the benefits of the psilocybin in ways that can make a critical difference in the way in which you navigate this world. And for me, when I've microdosed on different occasions, and usually when I do, it's a series, whether it's for a week or it's for a month. So on that, like 4 days on, 3 days off. And I find myself also much creative. Mood, it boosts my mood. I tend to get social anxiety quite easily when in public, especially in groups. And I find myself much more engaged and feeling love in ways, not like, oh, I want to kiss them or anything like that, but like, like I have a general affinity for connection in a way that perhaps I might be scared of connection previous to experiencing microdosing. Yeah, it can be a really beautiful tool in connecting with yourself, but also others in a more deep and meaningful manner.
Oh, for sure. I mean, so I'm sure people will judge me on this, and you can. I mean, obviously I have kids, and I think a lot of people, when they hear microdosing on mushrooms, that you are getting high, you are seeing things, like you can't actually like function, but you're a functioning human being. Like, I can get in my car and drive my car. I can do work. I could handle my children. It does not change my like um mental or like physical experience. It's just deepening the levels of almost intimacy
Absolutely.
with
Yeah.
yourself and with others. So I just like, because I kind of wanted to have this conversation, talk about this too, because I think people are afraid of one, taking it, and then they think microdosing is the same thing as a regular trip, which is not even remotely close, because I've done both and I know you've done both, and it's not even remotely the same. Now, obviously people are sensitive, and I think that's great that you said that, like, definitely pay attention to the dosages, and definitely the first time you microdose, I would probably not have things happening in your day, just so you can see if you can actually handle whatever dosage you took. Because that I would say, I would like, maybe like tell your husband to watch the kids or something, or like, like don't do it on a work day, like be mindful with the first experience so that you can see if you are on the right dosage. Now, I will say, in like legal areas, they have like forms of like little capsules now, where you can just, they have them already dosed out, and you can see what the dosages are, and you can see how much you want to take or not want to take. And I think that that's kind of fantastic that's
Yeah.
becoming a thing. It's, and like they have it in like gummy form now, which I've tried that, and it's disgusting for me. Maybe I got maybe I got the wrong one. I don't know. But it's just so fascinating that if we could just like drug, I'm going to say something really weird. We can just totally bypass this afterwards, but I have to say it. We could just like drug the government, you know,
Yeah, you don't really.
like just put a little in their morning coffee.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if some people are hesitant to take it in the government just because they know the facts that it's it can change the viewpoint of how we navigate this
But
world.
maybe but that's the thing is we do need to change.
Yeah, we absolutely do. I do want to speak to a couple things that you said. Oh, it's like, I like didn't want to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
Um, let's see if I can get there. Oh, as far as dosages, you were talking about dosages. I definitely, as I mentioned earlier, it's really important to be aware of how much you take at first as well. I agree with that. When I first started microdosing, thankfully, it was shut down during COVID 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I was in the space and time in which I was ready, but also I didn't have to go to work.
Yeah.
And out of respect for my bosses and the place in which I worked, uh, I I felt like it was a safe time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a note that I do want to mention as far as if you are making your own capsules and grinding up your own mushrooms and making your capsules, just like if you were to take a 2 gram dosage for a trip, a journey, one mushroom cap that looks identical to another mushroom cap, one could be stronger than the other, so weighing your capsules and making sure they're as close as possible is important, but also knowing that one day you might actually feel it a little bit more than another day. I'm at this place where now I know my dosage and I'm happy
Mm-hmm.
with my dosage, that like I I don't think I've ever really had a problem with like all of a sudden going out on the real and like, oh shit, I'm feeling it,
Yeah. Yeah.
Early on, I did.
Oh.
I did, perhaps because I wasn't as careful in measuring, but also knowing that depending on the physical mushroom itself and grinding it up, one could have more psilocybin
Mm.
than the other. But I'm interested and fascinated about reading more about how it's maybe controlled, I say, in the medical industry and how they're making their capsules and how they measure that. I wonder if there's a tool to measure that.
I'm not sure. I've gotten it from facilities like that before, and each dose, each capsule was the same. Like there was no difference. That's why, like, if you are in a legal area, like that might be the place to start. But again, like, one, we're not doctors. Let me preface, like, I feel like
Yep.
I should have prefaced this at the beginning. We are not doctors, so you can ignore everything we just said, or you can consult with I don't know who, but because I don't know if it could be your doctor, because like that's not really, unless it's in a legal space, then maybe then other probably is a doctor that you would have to talk to. Like in Florida, when you can get your medical marijuana card, you had to go to a doctor. So if you are in a legal space, I'm sure there is a doctor that you would be able to speak to. But I would say less is more, like at the beginning.
Absolutely.
Like start way, way, way less, and then maybe increase a little bit after that. And that way you can see, instead of going like, you know what, I like this scientist or doctor or whoever that, has been creating dosages said, do this one. And I'm going to do that one. Like maybe go a little bit less than what anybody's saying at the beginning. Or if you're in a legal area, you can pick up a capsule, and that might be the safest space to start. But yeah, I'd say the first time just do it in a safe space where you don't have to actually do anything, because or while you're figuring out your dosage. Like don't be doing it around times when you have to be with your kids or whatever. I was starting out on like weekends when, you know, my husband can deal with the kids or we didn't have anything going on. But again, like I never had any experience where I felt when I was microdosing that I don't know, that I was like under the influence. It was all normal, I guess, to
Mhm.
me, whatever normal is.
Yeah, I only had that one time where I don't know if I just had just a little bit more mushroom in it. Keep in mind, we're talking like bump it up a little bit, like you said, starting low, like they suggest zero point 0.1 grams. I mean, I started at 0.08,
Mm-hmm.
and then uh, after years of like again on and off and multiple journeys with mushrooms, I'm now at like 0.18.
Mm.
You know, there was a point for a long time I was at 0.13. So like you're talking like tiny adjustments, like
Yeah. It's just
um
better to I mean, we're both defined spleens here. It's just better to be safe, guys, as we're talking about a non-safe issue.
But one other thing that I wanted to mention, that I thought of when you were speaking about, paying attention or creating a space or time in your life, and another, I would call it a ritual that can go along with our intention with microdosing is journaling. Uh,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
journaling every day alongside this chapter, again, whether it's a week or 2 weeks or a month, and being a witness of your journey and how perhaps it's affecting you or how you're engaging differently, or perhaps the shifts would be more apparent if you are able to go back and like, wow, let me take that in, because there is an integration period after you consume anything. I mean, let's just stick to mushrooms, but like if
Tell
you
us
can
what else you've taken. No, I'm just kidding.
there should be an integration period in which that you are coming home to yourself and taking in the experience and digesting it. I mean, really, even relationships, after you break up with someone,
Mhm.
you should take a break and, you know, uh, evaluate.
Well, it
And
hits the reset button for you.
yeah,
That's what I feel like when you go on an actual journey does. Is it like really, it's like, I'm going to restart, I'm going to shatter you, right? I'm going to break everything inside of you. And then we're going to integrate, put you back in the real world. And as you're going back into the real world, we're going to be moving parts in your brain. And it's almost like you're like starting over again. And you're like, where am I? Like,
mhm, yeah.
like I remember my last experience when I did the camping one, which you can go back a few episodes from this one. I forget which episode it is where I talk about that journey. But I remember when I walked in the door, I was wearing my hoodie and it was like over me like this. And then I had another jacket on and then I had my sunglasses on. And my husband's like, have you come to rob us? Like, what is just like what is happening there? And I remember I had to like sleep the whole day. I also was sleeping on the floor in a tent, which is like, I don't know. At this, I'm like, I don't know if I can. I feel like I need like better camping gear because that was horrible. I could not sleep.
We are getting older, my dear.
Yeah, yeah. My back is not what it once was after, getting hit by a car.
Mhm,
So
true.
yeah. So I don't know. I'm like, maybe, I mean, I'm like, maybe I need a safer setting next time.
Mm.
Like, and like access to a phone. Like, I didn't realize like how much we were going off the grid when, you know, our cell service was gone.
Which sometimes I think can be a really great thing, though. Like when I do my own personal journeys with myself, no one else around in my home, I turn off all.
Yeah, but I mean, in case of an emergency, you would be able to turn it
Absolutely.
back on.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying. Like, yes, that. Oh, definitely like unplug. I feel like
Yeah.
that's the number one. Have you ever looked at your phone when
It's
you're on?
crazy. It's not.
First of all, can we talk about a few things that happen? This is one of the last things I wanted to talk about was like what our experiences have been, because mine have been, especially the first one. And like I can see this especially in the water because you can see all the fractal lines and the geometric shapes and patterns that are actually like the grid. It shows you the fucking grid, right? And the fractal lines that are running from me to you. And like, it's just crazy. It's like, it sounds crazy, but it like removes the illusion. And then all of a sudden you get a chance to see what's underneath. And one thing that the founder of Human Design talked about, and he definitely took a lot of stuff. I mean, it just happened, but but like, I cannot knock him for taking one. I've taken stuff and I'm taking stuff. Like, I cannot knock him for taking stuff because it really, if you can surrender to like remove all the stigma around it and just surrender that it's here to give us a deeper message and unlock parts of us that we would never be able to experience without it. Like, he said that if we were to be able to see what's really happening here, like on this planet, like with our human eyes, like, we would not be able to actually see anything because the neutrinos, which are these subatomic particles that are coming from the planets, from the stars through the planets, getting imprinted by the planets, and then rushing to us. And they pick up an imprintation of everything they hit. It's like this tiny particle that's bumping into all these things, and then they imprint in you and they completely change the structure, the substructure of who you are. And so he said that if we were to be able to see that, like, we would not be able to actually see anything because covered, we can't even see what's actually happening. We can't see these fractal lines. We can't see these geometric patterns. So have you had an experience like that? Or what has been your experience?
Well, what comes to mind, just to piggyback on what you're saying, is like, it's the veil, there's a veil, and there is something to be said about lifting those veils. I mean, we have layers of within our own being, onion layers, and that's what I feel like many of us are doing, is peeling away, those layers within ourselves. But beyond us, there's even more layers in the universe and what we're seeing. So anyways, I wanted to speak to that veil. Yeah, I feel you. I every journey is different. But almost always when I drop into that sacred space and the mushroom starts flowing through my body and through my bloodstream, and I call it a portal. It's like stepping through this portal. It's really intense. I'm very sensitive to energies as it is, but it's very intense in my body. But then once I started acclimating to that energy, I often do start seeing sacred geometry. As strange as it is to say this on a podcast. Like,
our audience is a bunch of weirdos. Just
okay, well, I'm totally a weirdo too, but it's still weird to say. Like, I often have to go to the bathroom. And that is my personal first signal that I'm like, okay, yeah. Like, not only because I need to walk away and be in my own space, and because I'm so sensitive to other people's energy, sometimes it's really important for me to be alone as I'm stepping through that portal. But also when I'm in the bathroom, I often am seeing sacred geometry all over my body. Running through my skin, and it is so beautiful. And sometimes that sacred geometry can be seen in lights and colors, especially in nature. But depending on my space, that can dissipate over time. I hope that answers your question as far as that goes. I don't know if you want me to talk more about my experiences.
Have you had any real awakenings from these experiences that you'd like to share with us? And you can be as vulnerable or not as you want. There's no right or wrong.
Well, there's many, many beautiful and very difficult experiences I've had too. I was blessed with opportunity to step into my healing journey, supported with other beautiful souls that I felt safe with, to cry and to verbally share things, or sing or make sounds. Um, but as far as any particular journey of transformation, yeah, there's many that come to mind. I'm not quite sure if I am ready to talk about it in detail, but there has there was one in particular that was really profound to watch unfold. There was another friend at the time, who I was going through yoga teacher training with, who we actually came together in ceremony, in partnership, meaning I didn't see it coming. I don't think he saw it coming
Oh,
at all. It was so we had a journey just of four people, and most of the time we often are doing our own thing or in our world, wandering nature, whether we're doing yoga or taking a walk in nature. But him and I chose to come together towards the end of the journey, actually, and go for a walk, and our lives were never the same after that. We came together in partnership and made the choice of like, something's here, and we saw each other in a new light. And he was also a shaman. So that experience with him at that time set me on a new path of not only relationship and having that mirror in relationship through him, right? And growing, but also um, uh, the the excitement of partnership, but also we helped each other step through some really difficult things in our lives and um, see how we needed to grow individually, but also within partnership. So, yeah, that was probably one of the most profound and transformational experiences I had. That him and I actually continued to do journey work together, and has helped me. Uh, um, be able to do journeys by myself too,
mm.
because it can be scary. It can be
Oh yeah.
scary, like knowing that no one's around, or like, what if I have a bad trip, or you know, and I thank him. Probably will never hear this podcast, but for opening up my eyes. And
I'm sending it to him now. I'm just kidding.
yeah, but it's also, more importantly, it was the mushroom that really revealed um, um, something that both of us needed to see, and that we needed each other at that time. Um, but as far as personal journeys, there's been journeys where I did a lot of crying, or I did a lot of writing, or even some I purged because I needed to purge. I needed to get rid of that energy that was stuck in me, that was no longer
Yeah.
serving me. And yeah, sometimes it's the mushroom. Sometimes it's like scientifically, we're eating poison.
Yeah.
It may not agree with your stomach, but at least in a couple ceremonies I've had, I came out at realizing that no, there was more to it. Like they say in ayahuasca journeys, the purging is a really important part of it, and I believe that that's possible also in mushroom journeys at
Oh,
higher
for sure.
dosages.
Oh, for sure. That was my last experience, which I didn't know that that was like a thing. And it was just like this, like, I don't even know how to explain like how fast it hit me, where it was like 1 second I was fine. And then the next second I'm like, oh, this is where I die. Like it went like so from 0 to 100, where I was like, this is like the scariest, like that pain that's
Yeah.
in that starts in your stomach with it, where you need to get it out, but you don't know if like you're about to die or if you're about to throw up, because it's just like so intense. I had never experienced that before. And that's why I'm like, if I were to ever do this again, because I didn't know. And I'm such a third line, and people can, judge me if they want. I really don't care at this point. But I now know, like, maybe that there needs to unplug, turn off my phone, but in case of emergency, like, know that there is a
Yeah.
hospital I can contact. Like, I feel like you have to know the safety of this, of what you should do. Definitely do your research. I mean, there's obviously facilitators that you can do these with as well. Like, make sure you're doing your correct research. Like, I definitely feel like I made a mistake with this last one with the way that I did it, but I don't know. Luckily, I'm a third line and have like 9 lives. I don't know how many I've lost at this point.
But you don't need me to tell you that everything happens for a reason, and what that experience has definitely shifted you, and giving
Oh
you the
yeah.
awareness that maybe you would do something differently. And I agree, like whenever I do my own personal journeys, which is very intentional, and there's no rhyme or reason and when I do it exactly, but it could be like once a year, for example. I you know, tap in or drop in, I should say. And I make sure that I share it with a dear friend of mine that I trust. And I say, hey, just to let you know, I'm going to be going on a journey. Can I call you if I need you? You know? Um, yeah, I think it's important to have those backup plans. And again, we are not doctors.
No. Oh,
And
clearly
this is
do
just
not
our
listen to me.
experience, but like it's everything's a risk, right?
Life
Sharing our heart,
life
being
is
vulnerable I mean, honestly, coming on this podcast, I was like, shit, like I'm like talking about some illegal stuff here, like
yeah.
it's a risk, but I truly believe that this work, if we choose to do it, if we're called to do this work and take psilocybin at larger dosages, um, in a responsible manner,
Yeah,
that
definitely.
it is capable of helping us on grow and evolve and step through those things that which are maybe holding us back, but also trauma
Mhm.
work. Like that's one reason why microdosing, I believe, is such
Oh
a big
yeah.
thing right now, is because
Oh yeah.
so many of us, all of us, from the day we're born, some of us are enduring multiple trauma experiences. And
Being born is a trauma.
yes, absolutely. And
So
depending on the way you were raised and your family environment and who your parents were, but even beyond your parents, like our daily lives,
mhm.
like something could happen, like your accident, for example. That's something that's in our body. We're holding that memory in our body. And I truly believe that this medicine, fungi, is capable of helping us let go and release and come to peace, or more so even awareness. That's key, is
Mm,
awareness of that trauma that is perhaps in our bodies.
I think our audience could relate to the awareness part, because I feel like that's the gift that human design has given,
Mm,
is the awareness that you would never get to have. Like, I feel like finding human design is a gift because it allows you to see the unconscious, these fixed parts in ourselves that we may have a sense of, but we don't have a deeper understanding of the why or how, or even when it shows up. Like, there's mannerisms I have in my physical body that I do, that I know, like, I actually know why I'm doing them after
mm,
learning my human design. And
mhm.
so I feel like that's the depth that we're trying to come to, is this deeper awareness of being human.
Yeah. How can we
But
change if we're not aware?
you cannot.
Really? I mean, and sometimes maybe there's some aspects in our life where we don't want to change. And
Mhm.
and that's okay too. But I do believe that there is an unconscious um uh, desire in us in some ways that wants to be um, to evolve. And I think more of us are really recognizing that we have to. in order to save this planet, to
Yep.
save ourselves. Like,
All of it.
mhm.
100%. Is there anything lastly you would want to let our audience know about mushrooms that maybe that
Mm.
I didn't ask you a question on or that you would like to share?
Well, I think I kind of touched on it, but there are multiple different types of mushrooms. If you don't feel comfortable consuming psilocybin mushrooms, or eating mushrooms in your food. Some people don't like the textures or such. You can still reap the benefits of what they have to offer for us in other forms,
Mhm.
like we mentioned earlier, lion's mane and reishi and shiitake. And there's, I mean, I could list all of them. Well, maybe I can't, but you know what I mean? Like there is so many out there and that are plastered all over social media these days in your
Mhm.
coffee or in your matcha,
Yeah.
um,
Mushroom
but also
coffee.
but also in like extracts, or tinctures.
Mhm.
That's one thing I came to loving as part of my daily ritual is not only when I take my multivitamins or my vitamins, I should say, um, but I add drops of lion's mane and reishi, and turkey tail in my water,
Mm.
or in my smoothie. And I have felt the difference. Like I don't always have I haven't had the best memory when it comes to things. And after many years of working with lion's mane, I feel a difference and I'm really grateful for it. And so just know that there are many ways in which mushrooms are speaking to us. And if you have not watched the movie or the film Fantastic Fungi, I highly recommend it. I think it's life altering, to be quite honest with you. I think more people need to see it. A lot of people have witnessed my journey and be like, what the hell, Nina? What's up with the mushrooms? Why are you obsessed with the mushrooms? And um, I point them to that film because I could maybe scratch at the surface of why, and even this podcast is scratching the surface of why mushrooms are important to us and this planet. Uh,
Mhm.
but they are our healers, and they are not only here to help this planet but heal us. And so I hope that you educate yourself and help educate others. And if not, that's okay too. But just know that um, they mushrooms and fungi are doing great things.
Yes. All your words. I know that you're like, I don't know what I'm saying because I'm right brained, but your words just flow.
Not
It's
always, but thank
yeah.
you. Oh,
Well, is if okay, so one last thing that I want to ask you before I let you go is there any message that you would like to give to our audience that you think they might need to know in this very moment? Just in general, does not have to have anything to do with mushrooms, just a general statement that you'd like to share with the audience.
yeah. Well, the first thing, like just in this immediate moment, what comes to mind is follow your intuition, listen to your heart. Um, I often use the term follow the breadcrumbs, um, to be living in the moment and truly trusting that what you need will be shown to you. And rather than chasing or trying to have control in our lives, I truly believe that allowing yourself to flow through this experience, which is really hard. It's really hard to be in the moment and not be distracted about your to-do list or what you need to do tomorrow. Um, but yeah, follow your heart, trust your intuition. Usually your first thing that comes to mind is usually the correct option.
Follow your
And,
authority.
yeah, and do it with love,
Yeah.
with love. I really, that is the ultimate truth in my world, at least, is love.
Wow. That was beautiful. And I love that we're doing this while gate 46, which is love of the body, is transiting the
Mm.
sun. And then gate 25, which is universal love, is transiting the earth.
Mm.
So it's like you spoke through those two gates, which you don't actually have because you have a completely open G center, but I had, that's a part of my incarnation cross. It's part of the vessel of love incarnation cross, and it's two of the love gates. There's actually a bunch that aren't just in the G center, but that's where the vessel of love sits, is in the G center, which is connected to the heart. So you kind of were able, I feel like, to speak through that through me. You're like a mirror of the G center, and mine's defined, and I have those
We're all mirrors,
activations.
right?
We are. I mean, we really are. So go look in the mirror, I guess, and and see what who you are and where you're at, and realize that there's nothing separating you except for who you think you are. We're all connected. We're all one. So thank you so much for listening, and thank you, Nina, for being here and sharing your second line genius and your sixth line wisdom, because we need more of that, and we are evolving into the sixth line. Humanity's moving towards the sixth, because the sixth is the highest almost like frequency for humanity to be operating at. Obviously it's going to take a very long time to get there with where we're at right now, but it's the progression of the evolutionary storyline that we're all living out. That's what the transits help us see. So thank you for being here. And I guess we will see you guys, or I will see you over on the next one.
Thank you so much, Krystle.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
So grateful.
Have a great day wherever you're at. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, YouTubers.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Krystle and I are really here as defined hearts to provide value to you with our unique insights. If you have found any of this episode valuable to you, we ask that you share with a friend, tag us with a highlight on Instagram, and write us a review so we can reach more people. Human design and astrology are tools to guide us toward our transformation. You are a unique and beautiful being, and we encourage you to let that light inside of you shine bright. See you in the next episode, friends.